dive into the world of local and international sport each Saturday on Sports Live. Hosts Zai Khan, Simon Berg and Tabisa Sitole break down your week's favourite and maybe not so favourite sporting moments in 30 minutes, interviewing the best coaches and players from your world of sport and getting great insight with plenty of laughs along the way. Sports Live every Saturday evening at 8 p.m. on SABC News Channel.
Welcome back. Now, the Kenyan election results remain in the spotlight, and this as defeated presidential candidate Raila Odinga has rejected the results of the presidential election, saying that the figures announced are null and void. William Ruto has been declared the winner of the neck-and-neck race to the presidential house, and the results were announced by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. But this victory doesn't come without challenges, as we will now discuss with Professor Macharia Munene, who is a professor of international relations at the United States International University, Africa. And he joins us now for his insights on the Kenyan elections. Professor Munene, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you.
So firstly, can we just start by assessing the feasibility of the legal challenge by Raila Odinga?
Well, he has said he's going to court, which is the right thing to do. It was expected that he would do that. In fact, the contest was so close, it could have gone either way at the end of the tally. And so we know that both sides had their lawyers collecting evidence or whatever they could find in preparation for possible going to court. So Raila going to court was expected and is the right thing to do. It has a positive effect in the sense that it helped to calm the temperature, and people can relax and go back to work as they wait for the court to do its work, which is likely to be within the next 3 weeks. It will be done.
Professor, looking at the role of the IEBC, now the Deputy Chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Juliana Cherera, along with 3 other commissioners of the IEBC, claimed that 142,000 votes were unaccounted for. And given that this is, as you also point out, that this was such a close race, what do you make of this? Not just the fact that they speak about these votes that are unaccounted for, how that came about, but just the conduct of the Electoral Commission.
Well, there were always some complaints about one thing or another. But during the election itself and the first days of the tallying of the votes, things went fairly smoothly. And the 4 commissioners who disappeared from the tallying center were part and parcel of the whole thing. In fact, they kept on assuring the public that everything was in order, everything was going as expected, and they were about to announce the results when, for whatever reason, they left to go and say that they were not part of the expected announcement. The figure they gave, of course, it would be a mistake if there is such a big error or any error. There should not be. But the mathematics of it has been disputed. And I think they have apologized for wrongful or wrong additions or subtractions, whatever it was. So it's a disputed thing, but it does not change the announcement, because once the announcement is made by the chairman, then the next step is to go to court and challenge the announcement. And that's what is happening. And it was expected that that would happen. And so Raila Odinga just did what was proper and expected of him, to go to court and challenge the results, because he expected to win and he did not win. And I'm sure the other side, it would have been the other way if he had been made declared the winner. Ruto then would have gone to court. So this is a process that Kenyans expected.
So how important or how much weight would these claims by the commissioners carry, given that they are now saying that they were sidelined in the vote tallying process? And also just the validity of these claims, because you say they were there, but they are now saying they were sidelines. Has there been any establishment of the veracity of these utterances by the commissioners? And again, back to the first question, how much import should be attached to what they are saying in terms of Raila Odinga's case that is taking to court?
Well, what the claims do is to cast aspersions on the credibility of the whole thing. Up to that point, the process had appeared to be very transparent because anyone could get into the portal and see the figures. So when they come at the end and say they're not part of it, they're raising doubts about the credibility. How much weight that will go into the decisions by the judges is another matter. I'm sure, or I think the judges, once they listen to everything, will determine whatever the way they go, based on the solidity of the evidence, not the hearsay or statements, because then the four will have to go and testify, if called, and prove their case, which is another matter. So the solidity of the evidence, the fairness of the justice, part of it, it has to be seen to be just. And of course, the public interest, as they see. The judges are all very experienced people, very smart people. They'll be able to tell the difference between hyperbole and the reality.
Professor, the reports around one of the Election Commission officials who was found dead recently, the veracity of that, has that been established? And if so, what sort of discussions are taking place around that particular incident and the bearing again on this election and its outcome?
Well, it has had a very bad negative effect on the morale of other election officials. It seems to be similar to what happened 5 years ago in the case of Chris Musando. An official is killed and nobody seems to know exactly who did it. And for this particular official, Musyoka, was returning officer in one of the constituencies, Embakasi East. And so he disappears and then he's found dead in Kajiado, some distance away from Nairobi. So it raises a lot of questions: who would be interested in his death and for what purpose, given that the tallying had been done and the winner had been known. So who would be interested in killing him and why? And the main thing is why. Did he compromise or refuse to compromise? These are questions that people are raising as to why. Maybe then wonder who then might be responsible. It's something for the police to investigate, and people are expecting to hear what the progress is. The chairman of the commission alluded to some pressure, harassment of his officials, and complained that things have not been going as well as they should. For that reason, people are concerned that the commission that appeared to be doing very well during the election is now appearing to be under pressure. And there are feelings that even the four commissioners who withdrew might have been under some pressure to do so. And the question is, where was that pressure coming from?
Now, given that particular death and also Odinga's announcement, this has sparked, I would imagine, some discontent among people that this could bring about a repeat of what Kenya went through after the 2017 election outcome, when Odinga's campaign also challenged then incumbent President Uhuru Kenyatta's win in the Supreme Court. And that period was marred by violent protests. People are concerned, I would imagine, in Kenya and outside of Kenya, whether this could possibly signal that the country could once again head towards violent protest. Are there any signs of that at the moment, or, is the ground fertile for a spark to be lit there?
Well, I don't think it will go to that level. Kenyans are tired. They remember 2007 very clearly, and there was very serious confrontation. In fact, some of the things we saw when the chairman was announcing the results were very similar to what had happened in 2007, when there were some people who tried to stop the chairman from announcing the results. The same scenario, only that this time it became a bit violent and some officials were beat up. That is very unfortunate. But in general, for the country, there will be no violence. There may be some attempts here and there. And people are, when you listen to them, they are saying they don't want it. The incitement will not work the way it might have worked before. So there is no need for people to fear that there will be chaos in the country. People have said, go to court and abide by the decision of the court. So there will be no violence in Kenya.
So looking at the outcome again, many are saying that Raila Odinga is a sore loser. What's your view on that?
Well, the record does not paint him very well. Every time he loses, he complains. And sometimes he finds his way back to the government somehow. That's a pattern. He loses, he complains, and then he's accommodated into the government. So the claim that he's a sore loser might have some merit, but I will not emphasize it. But the record is there that he has lost several times. This is the fifth time he's tried the presidency and lost. And he's grumbled. So it is expected that he would grumble. It is also expected that, God willing, he might be there in 2027. He'll be a candidate because that is, he's a politician. That's part of his political nature, to be candidate and then get accommodated within the government.
So, Prof, as you know, the continent is a young one. Many African countries yearning for younger leaders. Is this possibly something that could have influenced the outcome of this particular election? And also, what does William Ruto's election mean for Kenya?
Well, it's a positive development with regards to democracy in Kenya. It's the maturing of democracy in the country. Yes, William Ruto is 55 years old. He's young enough to be Raila's son in that respect. But there is a mood around the country that maybe it's time for change, change of a different kind, not just moving people who are known, but try something different. What William Ruto seems to have done, he aroused a lot of emotions. And underplayed emotions found an outlet in him. And although the turnout was not as good as it should have been, it was kind of low. In some cases, they say that it was a protest. Failure to turn up was a sign of protest. And then those who did turn out then tended to go to William Ruto's side. But it was very even, that election. But yes, there is a change of attitude, of perceptions, and it is no longer a given that a leader can stand up and say, I want the following, and then get it. Because that one has been shown very clearly. And so in that sense, the Ruto movement seems to represent that underclass that is rising up and taking charge, and mostly youthful people. Although the youth did not turn out as much as they should have, but there is a youth movement that is catching fire across the country. And it can be seen in these changes that were shown in the election.
So signs of a maturing democracy, but just in terms of change, looking at William Ruto, who's been there, part of the establishment, what sort of change would there really come to be in Kenyan society, looking at the socio-economic problems that the president and, of course, government by extension needs to deal with? Is there sufficient change that will be seen by the Kenyan public, or is it going to be more of the same?
It's likely to be more of the same initially, because change will take time. The economy is not doing very well, and Ruto has been part of that economy, having been minister in 3 administrations. He was a minister under Moi, under Kibaki, and deputy president under Uhuru. So, but the economic challenge is so big that it will need serious thinking. And the probability is that he's got some serious economic thinkers and political economic thinkers, so that it can balance the two. And if he goes out of place, he will lose the people, and then he cannot be afford to be seen to be abstract. So it is going to take time. It's possible that there might be some changes. Of course, the big problem in the country is the amount of corruption that is admitted by almost everyone. How to stem the corrupt tendencies and turn that wealth into productivity across the country, so that you can stimulate the economy. So there is likely to be quite a bit of stimulant undertakings just to keep people busy, particularly the ones called hustlers. You see, give them something to do. That might look as if it will be slightly different, but it will be an attempt. It will take time before there can be a turnaround.
And just finally, Prof, how do you anticipate this tackling of corruption playing out? Because you have now the outgoing president, Uhuru Kenyatta, who essentially backed Raila Odinga, and William Ruto now emerging victorious. How do you think that particular situation is likely to unfold?
Well, it's kind of dicey. The sitting president, seems to be facing some challenges, because he did go out of his way, campaign against his deputy, and some of his strongholds did not go along with him for some interesting arguments. There is a feeling that there is a matter of honor for some of these people, that they believe that William Ruto had been very helpful and supportive in getting the president Uhuru elected. So they felt that they owed him something in that regard. President Uhuru had his own reasons for saying he would not be supporting his deputy. And that one was also accepted as something that is within his right. But having seen what the results show, he has not spoken yet on this matter, but he must be evaluating everything, what it is that happened, what went wrong, and then decide what to do in order for the country to go on. But since he is the president, he does need to speak up and give some direction to the country. At least give some solace and comfort and confidence.
Well, Professor, we thank you for your time, and of course, we'll continue to also monitor these developments in Kenya. Professor Macharia Munene is Professor of International Relations at the United States International University, Africa, speaking to us there from Kenya. We're going to take a quick break. After this, we'll read some of your tweets.